Oh, hey again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder, and it's Sunday, January 29th, 2023. And this is a biggie because the District of Quantico, Virginia, is the seat of national government, believe it or not. And as you'll see, national is greater than federal, so Quantico, Virginia's government outranks the federal government in the District of Columbia. So let's look at this a little bit. I am Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Ratluski, U.S. Army veteran, also known as Rob Ryder. My email address is courtofrecord@aol.com. And you can find my other videos on Rob Ryder on YouTube, ROBBBRYDER. So let's see, what does the Constitution say? Well, it says that Congress shall have the power to do some things, and one is to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may be by session of particular states, and the acceptance of Congress become the capital S seat of capital G government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. And. Okay, and then in Title 4 of the United States Code, in subsection 71, it talks about the permanent seat of government. And it says that all that part of the territory of the United States included within the present limits of the District of Columbia shall be the permanent seat of government of the United States. Lowercase s and lowercase g. Right? They're two different forms of government. So in the District of Columbia is the federal government, but it's not the national government, and it's not what Congress is talking about. And so George Washington, on a particular day, he signed a Permanent Seat of Government Act, right, that created a new federal district for the federal government. And in exchange for locating the capital in a southern locale, Southern representatives dropped their opposition to Hamilton's program to have the federal government assume the state's Revolutionary War debts. So the national government's not going to assume them. The federal government is supposed to. Whatever that means. Just saying, apparently there's a difference, and we've been lied to. Now, why do I say this? Because I'm going to base everything I'm going to tell you today on things that are written, and we can look at some maps and so forth and so on. And you can draw your own conclusions. But let's see what we have. So hang on a second. Okay, so in my most recent video, which was just yesterday, called Catholics Have, by the book Military Solutions to Abortion, I was pointed out that in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, in Article 119A, that if you injure or kill an unborn child, it's manslaughter, right? It's a federal, so maybe it's not a civilian crime, right? But it is a military crime. So how could you make it a military issue instead of a, state issue or federal issue or whatever? Well, in doing all that, or in that research, what I had found that I could go to the Department of the Army Criminal Investigation Division and fill out a complaint. And so I was looking at this, and so I said yesterday, I told my friend Rosita that, hey, look at this site, and I'm going to try to send a complaint. And so she's looking through it, and she sent me back this thing. It said down here, way at the bottom, I mean, this is the Holy Spirit working. In the history of the CID, where it says today, the Department of Army Criminal Investigation Division, this thing we're talking about right here, headquarters, right? The thing we're talking about is located in Quantico, Virginia. Its position in the Army organization and its location at the seat of national government ensures that CID remains responsive to the Army's needs. So the Army Criminal Investigation Division believes it is at the seat of national government. And it's in Quantico, Virginia. But this doesn't say the Marine Corps base at Quantico, Virginia. Virginia. It says Quantico, Virginia. So what the heck is Quantico, Virginia? Well, we're going to see. It could be a town. It could be the Marine Corps base. It could be the name of a postal city. Or, hey, maybe it's a district of land. Less than 10 miles square. Wouldn't that be something? Okay, so, yeah, hang on again. Yeah, so my suggestion was going to be that, if you want to point out something that's happening to you, we should maybe be pointing it out to, like, the Army CID, or, as it turns out, NCIS is here also, right? The Marine Corps, or not the Marine, the Navy's version of CID, as is the Air Force's. They're all in the same building, for God's sakes. I wonder what that could mean. And from the site, then you can send a complaint. So if you go under Home and you look for report a crime, it comes to here. You got two different ways, and like one way is to go right here, click on that. And so I've already done one this way, right? Then fill out your complaint, send it in. Quantico, Virginia, United States. Well, that's where I want to be. I don't want to be in the United States of America. I want to be in the United States. Right, but again, it doesn't say Marine Corps base, Quantico. It just says Quantico. Although there is a Marine Corps base, Quantico, Virginia. But there's also a town of Quantico. Okay, so, and I want to show, is this it here? Yeah, NCIS, same thing. And so, if you've been following all my videos, a few months ago, I had tried with Dana, who, for the same reasons as me, a veteran believing that we've not been released from the military because of what the document said, we had wrote up a complaint, and he had taken it to the commander of the Grayling Army Camp in Michigan, who eventually ended up giving it over to JAG, who did whatever JAG does to get out of doing anything, and not much really happened of it. But I'm going to take the same thing now, because what we were pointed out in there is that, look, my contract says that I joined the Armed Forces of the United States. But my discharge document says I was discharged from the Armed Forces of the United States of America, which is not the same as the United States. So there's something going on, and it happened in the military. And, I never thought about taking it to these guys and telling them, CID or NCIS. So it's one of the things we're going to be trying here, and obviously it'll be part of my next video. But, these are all located in the same place. And then just as a little proof of the difference between a federal and national government. Now, of course, I don't know who this website belongs to, if they know what they're talking about, but it's a good place as any to start. Where it says both federal and national are terms used to describe governments that are being subscribed by the many governments around the world. There is a very small distinction between federal and national government. National governments, for instance, occupy the highest level of governments. Well, that's where CID says it is. A national government encompasses all other lower levels of government, such as local, state, regional. Since it is the highest level, all actions or movement implemented at this level directly affects all of the forms of government under its jurisdiction. Oh, so if I can get the national government to do something, then, they can push it on down the line for me. A national government is also referred to as the central government. As the highest level of governance, it consists of people who are put in very prominent, powerful, influential, and high positions, like the president, vice president, prime minister, monarch, commander-in-chief, his assistant, so forth and so on. Commandant of Marine Corps, all sorts of people. Who knows who they're talking about? Or other people that function as representatives or as head of state. The national government also includes the lawmaking body, as well as the judiciary and other branches of a particular country's government. So what if those are in the national government and it's the federal government in D.C., then none of that shit's got anything to do with the United States, which it doesn't, right? The national government also includes the lawmaking body as well as the judiciary and other branches of a particular country's government. Now, in D.C., when you go there, they got these big green areas they call the National Capital District or something like that. You think it's a park when you're looking at a map. But all those are supposed to be, parts of the United States in that overall territory we call the District of Columbia, which the rest of it don't have a damn thing to do with the United States, as far as the national government. But those areas there would. It's like 580 acres or something in the District of Columbia that make up the national capital, da-da-da area, something like that. Can't remember the name. And there's supposed to be somebody that oversees it, there's a director or something like that. Forgetting all that for a minute, right? It's just that that's there, right? So there are buildings. So those buildings in there, like the Supreme Court and the Capitol, that's all shit for the United States. It's just been overrun by the United States of America. Right? Because when you go to court in a district court and you look at the name of the plaintiff, it'll say United States of America. It doesn't say United States. Although you can find many court cases where when they're talking about it, they're talking about the United States, but that's not the name of the plaintiff on the paper. The name of the name on the paper was the United States of America, which is a dominion of King George III, agreed to by a treaty of peace in 1783 that has every right to be here in the United States. It's just not the government of the United States, although it acts like it is. Well, since it's a crown possession, its agents are called esquires. We think we're going to see lawyers when actually we're going to see esquires who take us to this foreign jurisdiction instead of taking us to the national jurisdiction. So we got to, find somehow to break that binding they have on us. Okay, so the national government, as name applies, concerns issues of jurisdiction of the whole nation. The jurisdiction of the national government is also vast and comprised of departments or offices that are designed for public service. And the resources are often vast enough to accommodate every citizen of that country. Laws enacted at the national level cannot be repealed, and they are carried out in the lower forms of government. The federal government, on the other hand, is a particular system of government characterized by having a central national government and is composed of a lower governments or units, particularly the state government. Right? So the federal governments are the states, actually. Right? It's not the national government. It's not the union, right? It's the several states. In this type of government, power is shared with national government, although both governments can remain independent of each other, go figure, and other, depending on the scope of the issue or concern. Simply put, in a federal government, the national government is the highest component level. If a particular country adopts a federal system, the federal government is also referred to as the national government. In other countries, national government is a term used to refer to the government itself. Okay, yada, yada, yada. It's one way, the other way. It's like find the peanut. But from all that, I'm going to say, okay, well, the national government is in Quantico. The federal government is in D.C. The federal government's like the states, several states, where the national government is over the several states as the union. Right? The national government's the union. In fact, in the Constitution, it says the United States is a union. Right? It's separate from the several states. Right? The national government is part of the federal government. It exists alongside the state government. The national government is headed by a representative, while the state government has its own authorities or leaders in its particular jurisdiction. Okay, so let's look at a few maps here. Here's a zip code map. Right, 22134 is the zip code of interest, which way over here is this little thing that says Quantico, which is a little town, and that's actually a fishing pier that sticks out into the river or marina or something like that. And but it goes way over here, right? So it's it's an area less than 10 by 10, 100 square miles, right? So what you could call it a postal district because that's what it is, but because it's called Quantico, also then Quantico became the postal town, which isn't necessarily so. Like for myself, my postal town was Rockford. I do my mail, I put Rockford, Michigan on it, but I live 11 miles from Rockford, out in the country, right? So it's my postal town, but it's not necessarily my residence. And this is all the goofy shit they do with names and stuff, and they do it on purpose, intentionally. So if we look then, we got the Naval Criminal Investigation Service, the Army CID, and the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. They all have the same zip code. They all have the same address. They're all in the same freaking building, right? So if we were to look at this map here, we'd say, okay, well, here's the building they're talking about, and the city of Quantico is way over here, right? But it's in the district. It's just across the street. Really not anywhere near the base, but or the town, but it's still called Quantico. Right, so here's the seat of national government, because that's what the Army said. They sit in the seat of national government, which is, now we're going to zoom into this little spot right here. And I like that they got the whole thing with a boundary on it. It's just wonderful. It's like, well, there's the seat of government. Right, this is what it looks like, with buildings there. And SNCIS is up there, the Department of Army's Criminal Investigation, the Air Force Special Investigations. Right? This is the seat of government. Whatever the name of this building is, which it said, I guess they told us what it was. Where did they have that at? Department? Oh, it's got a name of the building someplace. I'm just not seeing it right now. So, right? DOD counterintelligence is there too. All right. So continuing on. Now here's 319 Embry Loop at Quantico, Virginia. Right. This is the address of the Marine Corps base. Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia. Although here it says Quantico USCM Base. When you look it up online, they call it Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia. And you can see that it's not quite the same territory because here's the city. So, but it is all this right here. Right, that's all colored in. And so what I think that is that the initial purchase, when this all went down back in the day, 1917, the Army, or not the Army, but the United States government, bought 5,000 acres for a Marine base. And then after 1942, they bought another 50,000 acres for Quantico. It doesn't say they bought it for the Marine Corps base, they bought it for Quantico. All right, Marine Corps base, Quantico, commonly abbreviated as MCB Quantico, is the United States Marine Corps installation located near Triangle, Virginia, covering nearly 55,148 acres of Prince William County, Virginia, northern Stafford County, southeast Fauquier County, used primarily for training. MCB Quantico is also is known as the Crossroads of the Marine Corps. Now look, Marine Corps Base Quantico and MCB Quantico are not the same thing. They may be the same structure, but they're two different jurisdictions. So I don't know which one is which necessarily, but if you notice that this district, it covers multiple counties. So it's not, anything tied to any particular county. And I didn't show this, but if we go back and look really close, this is really quite interesting. Where's the map that shows it, Bob? Oh, This one right here. Well, yeah, this one right here. All right, so here's the town, the little town itself of Quantico. And we got Virginia and Maryland border, right? But if you look, this Maryland border, it comes on to land here and right here. So both Maryland and Virginia would have had to cede the property, just like Maryland and Virginia ceded property to make the District of Columbia. Right? Because neither of these little, doohickeys here are in the border of the town, which was here prior to anything else being here. But it's afterwards, and sure enough, you can't say it doesn't cross the territory. Now, in the same area, this Quantico, right? But it doesn't share the same address, but it's where the academy is, right? So here's 22134 that we're talking about. This is where the FBI is, over here. Although they claim to be from, the Quantico also. They share a border and so forth, but it's not the same, Quantico as far as a district, because it doesn't have the same number. And here, this has a Marine Corps base, right? Quantico, Virginia. It doesn't say Marine Corps base Quantico and then Virginia. It says, it's clearly separated. Marine Corps base Quantico, Virginia. Like Quantico is a district of some kind, and in that district is where the Marine Corps base is. Because it is in this 55,000 acres. But where did it say that? I have to go find this. Well, we'll finish up here. So it's used primarily for the base was designated as part of the Quantico Marine Corps Base Historic District by the National Register of Historic Places. This district includes 122 buildings, 2 landscape sculpture, yada yada. It is the site of the Marine Corps Combat Development Command and Marine Corps Helicopter 1HMX-1 or 1HMX, -1. Was the first helicopter squadron to provide rapid transportation for U.S. presidents. Mission they've continued. And then got this thing about U.S. right? That's U.S. is technically a Civil War term. I should probably show that real quick because that's another one of those important little details that sometimes gets missed. Publisher's note. So this came from an official Army U.S. Press, right? Army.mil, official military website. Books are published by our press that describe historical facts pertaining to the American Civil War and acknowledges that the legacy of the war is still at the forefront of our national conversation. Doesn't say United States Civil War, it says American Civil War. That's interesting. In light of this, thus, while the historiography has traditionally referred to the Union in American Civil War as a northern states law of the United States government, the fact is that the term Union always referred to all the states together, which is clearly not the situation at all. That's, the Union under the Constitution is all the several states. So in light of this, the reader will discover that the word Union will largely be replaced by a more historically accurate federal government or U.S. government. Right? So U.S. has to do with, this time when the Union was fractured. Union forces or Union Army will largely be replaced by U.S. Army, Federals, or Federal Army. So now U.S. Army, you'd say, okay, well that's I wore a uniform that said U.S. Army on it. Does that make me a member of the Union Army? Or am I now a member of a broken, non-constitutional gaggle run out of the District of Columbia? Well, one thing is, if you look at the government's, the government's style manual, it says U.S.Army stands for Army of the United States, not United States Army, Army of the United States. So again, these things are just the way they are. To rely upon bad faith interpretations of history like the Lost Cause. Oh, okay. The Lost Cause promotes an interpretation of the Civil War area that legitimates and excuses the secession agenda. So we should probably start here. The Reconstruction policy between the federal government and the former rebellious states saw an increased effort to control the narrative and how and why the war is fought, which led to an enduring perpetuation of Lost Cause rhetoric. The Lost Cause promotes an interpretation of the Civil War era that legitimates and excuses the secessionist agenda. This narrative has been wholly rejected by academic scholars who rely on rigorous research and an honest interpretation of primary source materials. To rely upon bad faith interpretations of history like the Lost Cause is, in this day and age, would be insufficient, inaccurate, and acknowledgement that the Confederate States of America was a legitimate nation. And that's the point is, no, it never was, right? There was only ever one nation. The one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all, is the United States. So I want to show a few more things, and we'll be pretty much done here. Hang on. Yeah, let's find some more things off of this page about Marine Corps-based Quantico, right? Commonly known as abbreviated MCB Quantico, is a United States Marine Corps installation, right? Less than 100 miles square. It's 86 miles square. But how did it start? What's the history of this thing? So let's go. Prior to the base's establishment, the land was owned by the town of Quantico. Now, I can show you in this court case over here, just real quick, that it was actually owned by the Quantico Company, leased from the Quantico Company, which, doesn't mean that it wasn't the town of Quantico. The town of Quantico could have created a thing called the Quantico Company. But that's who owned the land. Around the start of the 20th century, the Quantico Company was formed on Quantico Creek. By the beginning of the 20th century, Quantico was being advertised as a recreational day trip. The Quantico Company promoted the town as a tourist and excursion center and brought in tourists from Washington and Richmond by the steamer St. John's and trains, railroads, In 1916, Quantico Company began advertising Quantico as a new industrial city and pushed for industry to come to the area. At the time, Quantico Shipyards was established on Hospital Point, and the land that formerly held the Naval Medical Clinic is now home to the Marine Corps Systems Command. To build ocean freighters and so forth, and yada yada. So in 1917, Marine Barracks Quantico was established on land currently occupied by today's base. The Marine Barracks personnel consisted of 91 enlisted and 4 officers. Thousands of Marines have been trained there. It's on the National Register, right? But when it started out, it was called the Marine Corps, or Marine Barracks, Quantico. Then what else was there? Then in 1942, over 50,000 acres was purchased by the federal government and added to Quantico. Didn't say it was added to the Marine Corps base. It said it was added to Quantico. Right? So that's what I'm saying. This Quantico, it's a district, and in the district, it's got a Marine Corps base, it's got a city, it's got a post office, and it's got the national government seat of government. And here's another wonderful little tidbit, right? This in 1917, Marine Barracks Quantico was established on land currently occupied by today's base. The Marine Barracks personnel consisted of 91 enlisted and 4 officers. Thousands of Marines were trained here during World War I. The commanding general's quarters were built in 1920 and added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2009. By 1920, the Marine Corps schools were founded as Colonel Smedley Butler. I believe he's the most decorated man in Marine Corps history. He's got 2 Medals of Honor. And then he left the Marines and spent the rest of his life, after like 35 years, became a general. He's the man who wrote the book War is a Racket. Okay, but he's talking about D.C., see? He was in charge of the Marine Corps base at one time, if I'm not mistaken. Right? He's like the first man to live in the barracks, or in the commandant's quarters. So, but anyways, before that, in 1920, the Marine Corps schools were founded, as Colonel Smedley Butler put it, to make the post and the whole Marine Corps a great university. These schools eventually developed into the Marine Corps University, Virtually all Marine Corps officers receive the training, So, right, in a lot of ways, then it's a campus, not just a base. Right now, it's a campus. It's got all these universities and stuff there. And truly, the federal government, or not the federal, the national government has control of education. When they were dividing up all the territory and making townships, they were leaving 1 mile square in every 6x6 township for education. And the Department of Education that's in every state was actually created before the states were. Right? It's part of the federal state, not the political state. And I'm just saying, well, this is their headquarters then, right? That it's all being run out of this area called Quantico. And whether it's, at the Marine Corps base or over there where CID is, or if it's all put in, or if the district is the district and everything in the district is, part of the national government, which I believe is probably the case because it's in the district. They created a district by giving it a zip code. It's a postal district, right, which is federal. Well, national. It's military. I don't want to say federal anymore because federal is really separated from military. But the military is tied to the national because it's, tied to the crown or tied to the highest commander-in-chief and so forth. And just real quick, this is the headquarters of the Marine Corps base. And this over here is that's the Russell Knox building. That's what it's called. The Russell Knox building, which is where CIDs are, right? But they're all in Quantico. So very, very interesting. But all that really came down to the fact that it's because I want to file some complaints. And, for the rest of the civilians in the world, say, well, how can you file a complaint under the UCMJ? Well, all that you can find, and I highly suggest you download a copy of the 2019 Manual for Court Martials, which has the UCMJ in it and how the whole system is supposed to work and so forth. But, as I found out, and I'm going to leave it at this at the end here, right here we're looking at this appendix. This has got the Constitution of the United States of 1787, right? And then there's this other thing that you can get today called this pocket constitution, right? If you get your pocket constitution or whatever constitution it is you're looking at to follow, and you read Article 2, Section 1, very first sentence, in the pocket constitution it says, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. If you go to the 1787 Constitution, Article 2, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. There's no America on there. We got two different constitutions going. So I don't know how many other things are different. But what I do know is the one that the military's basing everything they're doing on is this one right here. All right, this is in the Manual for Court Martials, United States, 2019 edition. And what I wanted to show you is if you go to Rule, it might be easier to do it this way. Rule 301. Hang on a second. Okay, so in Rule 301 it says who may report? Any person may report an offense subject to trial by court-martial. Well, what can be tried by court-martial? Anything in the UCMJ, Uniform Code of Military Justice, which again is in here. And the thing about the Uniform Code of Military Justice is it's also part of Title 10 of the United States Code. Right? So if everybody in the United States is subject to the United States Code, then everybody's subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It doesn't matter where they're at. Everything can be made a military crime if it happened in the nation. So to whom reports conveyed for disposition. Ordinarily, any military authority who receives a report on an offense shall forward as soon as practicable the report in any accompanying information to the immediate commander of the suspect. Competent authority superior to that commander may direct otherwise. So any military authority may receive a report. Typically, such a report is made to law enforcement or investigation personnel. So it's completely proper for anybody who has a complaint for any reason, let it be larceny against your property, or tax evasion that all of these entities that want money from you are involved in, because none of them have an EIN number. They don't have a tax number. I have to explain all this in another video, but I'm not really here in this video to even talk about doing the complaints. I'm just saying anybody can do a complaint, and doing it through the investigative people is the thing to do. And so if you're going to send a complaint to the investigative people, well, why not send it to the ones that say, well, hey, we're sitting here in the, at the seat of national government. I want to make sure I use the same words they did. What did they say? Right? If you need to prove it to somebody, go to Department of Army, CID, under Home, CID History. Scroll on down to the last sentence. And today, the Department of the Army Criminal Investigation Division headquarters, it's located at Quantico, Virginia. Right? I'm just saying, well, that Quantico is the District of Quantico, all defined by a zip code. Its position in the Army organization and its location at the seat of national government ensures CID remains responsive to the Army's needs. Right? It's the seat of national government. And in that seat of national government is a Marine Corps base, and we got us a little town called the town of Quantico, and whatever else is out there in all those different locations and whatever you can put in 55,000 acres. It's all part of the district. And there's some land in the District of Columbia, right, that's defined by the national capital area. So, okay, more on this some other time. I just learning it myself as I'm going, so I'm far from being an expert. I'm just trying to, determine what fucking Quantico are we talking about? The little town, the Marine Corps base, or what, right? But it's the district. The district is the seat of government, and that's everything in there, including the Marine Corps base. Very good. You all have a great day, and hope you found it entertaining. Talk to you later. Bye.